So welcome to AMPC, our first GBM of the semester. We're very happy you guys are here, and thank you guys for being here because we know this is the midterms week, and you all have your own schedules and all these classes you're taking. But thank you so much for being here. So for the new members, I just want to say, this club is all about medicine, and it's really trying to understand how we can integrate many disciplines to understand medicine in general. It doesn't mean you have to be a bio major, you don't have to be a neuroscience major, you don't have to be an economics major. It really is, sort of an integration of many disciplines. Even our E-board members, we're very diverse. I mean, I'm a neuroscience major, he's a molecular bio major, Emily's a BME major, we have Victoria, who's an economics major, but we all really like medicine, and we really respect medicine and find ways to really, creative ways to really understand it. So I'm going to start off by introducing my two new E-board members. Actually, you know what? I'm going to have you start first. So let's start with Emily Choi.
Yeah, just a quick message from your social communications chair. Follow us on Instagram for updates. I'll follow you back. So.
So if you guys can go to your phone right now and follow us right now, that'd be fantastic because we need a lot of followers, a lot of great followers. So.
Yeah, and please also let us know if you ever have any ideas of things you'd like us to post or any interesting topics. We're always here to relay really cool topics in medicine or health.
And we also have a Facebook account. If you just go and type AMPC, you can follow that page as well. But our primary social communication will be through Instagram. So please follow us and have your friends follow us here. So with that said, I'm going to have two E-board members come here and present themselves because they're new. So I'm going to start off with Victoria. I'm sorry, Natalia.
Hi everybody, my name is Natalia. I'm the second social communication chair of AMPC. I'm currently a junior at GW, but I'm majoring in cognitive neuroscience and double minoring in human anatomy and also Chinese language and literature. I know some of you here already know me a little bit, but I wanted to introduce myself to you. It might be a little bit long, but I hope you like it. So I was born and raised in Brazil, but I went to boarding school in New York when I was 15 years old. Since young, my parents really devoted my education to learning different languages, such as Portuguese, obviously, Spanish, French, Italian, and English. This resulted in a very increasing passion of mine for learning about different cultures and also communicating with people from all over the world in different languages. And also because my dad is a doctor, he's a plastic surgeon. Since I was about, I believe, 7 years old, I would go with him to the hospital, also see his pre-ops, post-ops, help him a little bit. And that really made me realize that along with my passion for helping others, I really wanted to be a doctor. So when I was in boarding school, going into why I picked my major and minors, when I was in boarding school, we were required to take a language class, and that had to be either Spanish or Chinese. So because I already knew Spanish, because it's so similar to my first language, Portuguese, I decided to try and take Chinese. Since then, I became very much interested by the Chinese culture and also the language itself, and decided to continue with it and minor in it. And when I first arrived at GW, in terms of my major and my human anatomy minor, I had no idea what I wanted to do, what I wanted to major in. I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to be a doctor or do something pre-med related, but I didn't really know or was sometimes confused because I really liked learning languages and being able to communicate with other people all around the world. So I thought about doing diplomacy, but after my first semester, when I took general psychology and human anatomy and physiology 1, I saw that I had this passion and this increasing interest for learning about how people behave, feel, think, and also about the human body itself. So that is the reason why I decided to choose my major cognitive neuroscience because I wanted to combine a little bit of learning about people's cognitive processes and also about the brain, which is fascinating to me, and I know many of you really find it fascinating as well. And ever since I decided to work in the field of medicine, like really decided, I've done some shadowing in Brazil and also in Ecuador, which included watching neurosurgeries and general pediatric surgeries. I was able to intern at a Brazilian hospital. I also volunteer at GW's hospital, so if you need any help knowing a little bit about the application process or anything, feel free to reach out to me. And I volunteered in Brazil at a school for autistic children and also at a school for children with other neurodevelopmental disorders, such as Down syndrome. In terms of my research, I'm currently involved in 3 research labs. As you can see, it's the Social Cognition Lab, the Lab of Autism and Developmental Neuroscience, and the Bethany Lab. So in the Social Cognition Lab, we're very focused on studying about how people learn. It's in the speech and hearing department. And we're now conducting a study on ownership. So how do children know what somebody, if, for example, a story of a person, is it that person's, is it everyone's story because she told it to other people, or is it no one's story because it was seen on the TV? So it's things like that. And I'm not as much involved with the Lab of Autism and Developmental Neuroscience anymore because I became very involved. I just started during the Bethany Lab, participating in it. But the Lab of Autism and Developmental Neuroscience is really, really interesting because we got to work with neuroimaging studies. So you got to see a children's autistic children's brain and see the volume of it in comparison to a person that doesn't have autism. And in the Bethany Lab right now, it's located in Ross Hall. It's the Department of Microbiology, Immunology, and Tropical Diseases. And they have many different studies. It's a really, really nice lab to work with. Also, if you want to reach out to the doctors or anything, you can always ask me for help. And in this lab, we have, as I said, many different studies, and the one that I'm focusing on is related to inducing antibodies to prevent HIV infection. So what we're doing is consists of separation of plasma, separation of serum, leukapheresis, all those things. And also, Emily and I, as she said, she's also the social communications chair. We are having a research workshop this coming up Thursday. It's from 6 to 7 p.m. here in Marvin, the ground room 08. We'll be sending you an email with more information about it and how many people can sign up. It's probably going to be through Doodle Poll, but it's going to be consisted of why research is so important in the eyes of medical schools. What types of research should you go into? What should you focus on? How should you approach a doctor or a professor asking them to participate in their research? How should you format that email? What should you send them in that email? And also talking to you a little bit about our own research experiences. And last but not least, because that's long, my plans after graduation is going to postbac program. I don't know if many of you know what that is. So this program, for example, if you graduated from college, but you didn't take all the pre-med requirements. If you graduated and then you realize, oh my God, I want to be a doctor, but I didn't take all these classes. You can go to a postbac program and take all the pre-med requirements. And it's also good to boost your GPA. So if you went through college and you didn't really like your GPA, you can take other harder classes during postbac that it will really help you to get into medical school. So then my plan is after postbac program, hopefully going to medical school and becoming a doctor. But yeah, that's it. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much, Natalia. As she mentioned, she's our new social communication chair. We have a lot in store for her. because there's a lot of work that we need to distribute and a lot of things that we're trying to do for all of you guys. So again, can you guys give a huge round of applause for Natalia? So now I would like to introduce our other new position for this semester. Her name is Victoria, and she'll come over here. She's our secretary.
Hey everybody, how are you guys doing tonight? I'm Victoria. I'm very excited to introduce myself as the new E-board member and secretary of the AMPC. This is a really great organization, and I hope you guys are ready to take advantage of all the great resources that we have to offer you. So to start off, a little bit about me. I'm a freshman. I'm from New York. And I'm majoring in economics and minoring in Spanish and chemistry. I know an economics major is a little bit unconventional, but I think it's going to be a great asset to my education. I plan on studying economics and the production of distribution, consumption of goods and services, which is really good because I can integrate that with my knowledge of like the healthcare world, and it'll give me a more holistic view of the world. In terms of my minors, I'm minoring in Spanish because I took it throughout high school and I really enjoyed it. And being in the healthcare field, effectively communicating is really important. I don't know if you guys know, but Spanish is the second most spoken language in the United States. So I think it'll be really, really great for me to continue learning Spanish and developing that skill. And in terms of my chemistry minor, I'm really excited about doing that because that'll be more like geared toward my eventual career in medicine, hopefully. Yeah, so I think that'll really enhance my like medical school applications. And so now for my interests, I really like doing art. Excuse me. I really like doing art and taking pottery classes. It's something that really relaxes me and is really fun and awesome. I also do intramural soccer here at GW. I played soccer throughout all of high school. It was a really awesome experience, and I'm really glad that I'm able to continue doing it here. And in terms of my experiences, I volunteered at long-term care facilities since I was about 15 years old. If you guys don't know what a long-term care facility is, it's like nursing homes, rehabilitation centers. That was basically where I really decided that I wanted a career in healthcare. It's just like a really awesome experience. I recommend like volunteering to everybody, and especially if you want like exposure to that kind of environment. I've also volunteered at a hemophilia outpatient research clinic. For that, I shadowed a nurse practitioner, and I really enjoyed that because I got to see a different aspect of the healthcare field in medicine, because I'm still not really 100% sure about where I'm like headed toward in the healthcare field. Right now, I'm pretty sure that I want to be a physician, but there's also like other options like physician's assistant, nurse practitioner, and things like that. I've also shadowed in the OR and cath labs. There's a picture of me up there. Yeah, so that was like a really awesome experience that definitely like solidified my like passion for medicine and the healthcare field. I really think that shadowing in the OR or like doing rounds with like doctors, surgeons is like really awesome for like when you're trying to figure out what you want to do. Yeah, so in the OR, I basically shadowed cardiothoracic surgeons, anesthesiologists, and orthopedic surgeons. I really think that it was an eye-opening experience for me because I hadn't before like been in like such like an intense environment in that respect, and it really like helped me like know that I definitely want to have a career in medicine in the healthcare industry. And the cath lab is also a really cool place to be because it's like non-invasive surgeries where like you don't require like any like cutting open. All of it's done through like the arteries, and I think it's like it was really awesome to be able to do that as well. There's like a little image over there that shows like those types of surgeries. Yeah, so that's all about me and what I've done so far. I know I'm only a freshman, and I have a lot more to learn, and I'm not, in terms of my plans after graduation, hopefully medical school, but I don't know where the road will take me, maybe PA school, but yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Victoria. That's actually a really nice story, and also, you know, we hope that even, you know, as you progress in your career in the future with this club, that can help out. And if it's not medical school, if it's PA, hey, that's still something in medicine. That's something really proud to be of, and we hope that you find your mission. Thank you so much. Can anyone please give her a round of applause again? She was So now we'll have our treasurer, Adam Snyder. He has some really cool things to discuss today regarding the MD and DO exams, and also the USMLE STEP exams, and how these two are, you know, starting to evolve, which I think a lot of us are really interested in. So can everyone please give him a huge round of applause as he comes to us.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the introduction. Guys, there's a lot of change coming to the USMLE, and this substantial change will affect the way that you guys are going to be applying to residencies in the future. And so today I plan to discuss with you guys the changes that are going to be happening, as well as discussing how this is going to affect you. So, before we get into all of that, we will begin by discussing some of the background. So, the USMLE is run by two organizations, the FSMB and the NBME. These two organizations are two important organizations that run licensing for medical school students to become official doctors. And they plan on changing the entire system for how the USMLE is being graded. So, before we get into all of that, I want to give you guys a framework for what we are going to discuss in this presentation with a couple of learning objectives. And I'm just going to run through this, and this is going to be a good outline for what we are going to continue to discuss in the next coming parts of the presentation. So we're going to begin with answering questions like, what are the new score reporting changes? Is this the same for step 1 and step 2? Why did the score reporting change? What was this decision? How was this decision made, and how did it come about? When do these changes take effect? And do these changes affect how you should study and prepare for the USMLE? And what factors are going to be enhanced or more important, and how is it going to change other aspects and factors of medical school and other changes that are also occurring that are miscellaneous? So let's begin at the beginning by understanding how they're going to change the score reporting. And so essentially what they're going to do, and officially it's a statement by these two organizations, they plan to make the USMLE Step 1 pass or fail. And this has huge implications because it is the most important examination that you will be taking in your medical school. At least this was up until this point. But because of the way they're doing it, you can score a 260, which is a very extremely high score that could get you into very top residency programs in plastic surgery, etc. Or you could score a 210, which is barely passing. But because of the way that it's structured, it's coming back to what it was originally meant for historically. Originally, the USMLE test was made in order so that it could make a more universal landscape, so that all medical students had the same basic understanding and had the same ability to treat their patients. But now it's become much more than that, and it's become way too overemphasized. And this leads me into the next point. So this leads me to the next point. Why is this the case? So we see that they're having this huge change because there's been too much of an emphasis placed on the USMLE Step 1. And this is because it has a 3-digit score system. And we see that based on what's here down below, this is a statistic taken from a lot of different board directors of residency programs. And they've agreed that USMLE Step 1 is by far the most important factor when considering a potential applicant for a residency interview. And so we see that 94% of 1,233 different residency directors have shown that this is a significant factor. And on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most important and 1 being the least important, they scored at 4.1 out of 5. So it not only shows you that it's universally accepted as the most important factor, but it also shows you that it is extremely important, and it's just putting too much emphasis on this test that was originally meant just to show adequate ability to do medical knowledge. Now let's backtrack a little bit and understand, will they be doing this same thing for the Step 2? And the answer is no. They will actually only be making this great change for Step 1. Step 2 will stay the same because it still measures a lot more of the clinical aspects and is a much better indicator of a medical student's ability to be a good physician. And so we will continue by understanding how is this decision made? And this is in the words of the two organizations in their statement. They said, quote, "In reaching this decision, the USMLE co-sponsors engaged educators, regulators, examinees, and members of the public through surveys, presentations, and national meetings, webinars, and podcasts, etc. Essentially what they did was they had a huge group of people that were all involved in some certain steps of residency programming and the USMLE, and they all came together and understood the importance of the way overemphasis of this program, of this test on medical students, and how it has really taken away from the medical education in the first 2 years of medical school. They realized and they can understand that they came to the realization that this emphasis on studying towards this one exam takes away from the holistic other aspects of medical school, such as clinical experience when you're doing your clerkships or when you're getting your experiences working with people in the hospital. And so those will be much more emphasized because of this decision. And also, in addition to this, they made this decision because it was just putting too much stress onto medical students to just study to this exam, and they were just spending lots and lots of money buying different booklets to study for this exam when they should have actually been focusing on the material that is going to be much more relevant, much more important for their clinical experiences. So now let's move on to discuss when these changes will actually be occurring. And it actually will be happening no earlier than 2022. So for the current medical students out there, they're still going to be taking that, having the 3-digit scoring system. But by the time we get into medical school, which is around 2024, 2025, depending on how old you are, what year you are, this was very likely to affect us because they're very good on their implementation, and they should be definitely applying very soon. And so we also see, so let's understand now, how should this affect how you study for the USMLE? Does this mean that you don't need to study anymore? Well, the answer is no. You have to study very hard for the USMLE Step 1, because at the end of the day, it is you need to pass it in order to gain licensure. So failing the USMLE Step 1 is extremely bad, still as it is right now. And by failing the USMLE, even though it's pass-fail, makes it so that you're just digging yourself a hole that's much, much harder to climb out of, and especially if you're trying to get into a good residency program. And in addition to that, it's not only important just to study it just for the test, but also it helps you build up a knowledge base that will help guide you and bring you, will give you a good base of knowledge for when you are doing the next, your 3rd year or 4th year of medical school, when you're doing your rotations and you're working with doctors. It's going to serve, if you learn the nitty-gritty now so that you have the ability to apply that information when you're doing medical, when you're going on to the more clinical aspects. And so that's why. In addition to that, it builds your discipline. So it's so important that you develop your discipline early, and when you're able to work harder now, you'll definitely be much more prepared by the time you're actually in residency. Because you know how this works. It gets harder and harder, but become more and more prepared. And so moving forward, let's discuss how do these changes how does this change affect other aspects of medical school, and how will it change the dynamic? And so, as we'll see, there's going to be a much bigger focus on the clinical experiences available. So there are going to be 3 different factors that are going to take a much larger step up in its importance to residency program directors, and as we transition into a pass-fail USMLE system, step 1 system. So we're going to have a focus on 1, core clerkships, step 2, KC, and letters of recommendation letters of recommendation. And I can't emphasize the letters of recommendation anymore, and I'll give you guys a personal anecdote. When I was in high school, I got the wonderful opportunity to work at a University of Pennsylvania neuroscience lab, and one of the students there was an MD PhD student who got into the MD PhD student, into the program with a 3.5 GPA. That's incredible, right? This never happens. But the reason why he told me that he was able to get in was because of his amazing letter of recommendation. His letter writer was a professor at his university who was dying of cancer, stage 4 cancer. And in his recommendation letter, he said one of the most wonderful things, and I'll never forget it, that his only regret in life was that he could not have this young student as his physician to treat his cancer. And that just blew it away. So it's super important that you guys get the letters of recommendation that just stand out, that pop out to these hospitals and these residency programs, because it's going to be another important way to differentiate yourself now that this other quantitative measure has been taken away. In addition to that, focusing on the core clerkships, so your rotations doing OBGYN, psychology, general surgery, etc. Those are going to be very important, and getting honors in those will absolutely help you become a cut above the rest of all the other applicants. So those become much more important aspects now, not that they weren't in the past. And then third also is step 2 KC. It is the only step in the two-step USMLE that has a quantitative number, like a 3-digit number that can be tied to you. And so getting a 266 on the USMLE step 2 and a pass-fail and a pass on the first part is a lot better, so it's substantially better. It's only going to be more important than like getting a pass on the first part and a 212 or 220 on the second part. And so what else explains this? And we see right here with these 3 arrows, these 3 examples, these 3 core areas are going to be already super important. And by taking away the importance of the USMLE, these 3 will absolutely rise in importance and how much it will affect you in becoming a resident in a future wonderful program. And so to end my conversation on the changes to the USMLE, we're going to say, we're going to let you guys know that they're actually going to be reducing the amount of times you can take the test, because it's going to go from 6 times down to 4 times. And the reason for this is because they want to maintain the high level of excellency within America's medical professionals. And by, you want to know, first off, you want to definitely pass your USMLE step 1 first go. And if you're at the point where you're failing it 4 times, you have to really consider, have you really put in the effort? Have you put in the grit? Do you have the grit to go to residency, which is going to be definitely harder and much more excruciating than even medical school. And with that, I end this presentation, but in the future, if there's any more developments on the USMLE and the step 1 or step 2 or anything in that regard, I'll make sure to bring this up in the next presentation. And in the next general body meeting, we'll be discussing the DO versus MD and how they're going to be merging their residency programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adam. That's a great presentation. You know, it's actually really important to know how the future of our lives and really of the plenty of other students that we will encounter in the future, how their lives as a medical school student would change with this huge change. And as all of you already know, there's also a huge reform that Adam mentioned he might present on the next GBM about the MD-DO convergence. That's also a huge topic of debate going on right now. But you know, again, that's a really interesting topic, so I'd like to thank Adam personally for presenting that. It's not easy to talk about And it might not even seem of that much interest to us because we're still in our mindset of being pre-meds, but it is actually really, really relevant and powerful to know. So thank you again to Adam. And now I would like to introduce the president of our club, Beavis and Macho. He is going to be giving us a really good guide on medical school and how to really set yourself aside. Can everyone please give him a round of applause as he reads?
So yeah, I'm just going to be talking about, how to apply to medical school and, what sort of measures you need to be thinking about in the sort of the beginning phases of your pre-med career. And let's start. Okay. So, of course, GPA, grade point average. So there are two types of GPA you need to care about. One of them is science GPA, BCPM GPA. So biology, chemistry, physics, biochemistry, all of those count. Actually, astronomy is also one of them, if you guys didn't know. But yeah, that's just a side note. But yeah, it's very important to have your GPA above at least a 3.65 for the BCPM, because that's pretty much like the safe zone. Anything below that, medical schools will start to raise their eyebrows in a bad way. But yeah, so there's also the non-science GPA, which is like your psychology courses, your anthropology courses, stats. Actually, no, stats goes to the BCPM. But yeah, so that needs to be above 3.8 plus because those are really considered the easy sort of courses. But in overall, your total GPA should not be below 3.7 plus if you want to be on the safe zone. But a lot of questions come in and they're like, okay, what's like the, if I have a 3.9 GPA, what should be like my science GPA? And the answer to that question is that your total GPA and your science GPA should not have a difference more than 0.2. And if that's the case, then there's a really they need to think, medical schools will start to think, okay, you can do well in the non-science courses, but you're sort of struggling on the real scientific courses, like the biochemistry, the physics, which are typically harder. Now let's talk about the MCAT. So I kind of broke it down into three different ranges, 510, 512 plus, and 517 plus. Now if you're around the 510 range, you're good for, let's say, top 60 medical schools, like VCU, Eastern Virginia Medical School, for example, they have a 509, 510 around that. I think GW has around 511. Might have slightly changed this year. But if you're above 512, that's where you're really on the spot for a lot of these med schools, like top 30, top 40. Georgetown has above 512, I think. Maybe around 512, around that. Yeah, I mean, but if you're above 517, you're really good. I mean, you'll be applying to, like, let's say, top 20 medical schools, like, UVA, Duke University, Columbia. But the real idea here is that when we talk about medical school, we talk about, wow, I have great activities, I'm the president of this club, I have a lot of rec letters. But the real thing is you really have to make sure your GPA and your MCAT's on par. Because if those two things are not up there, your rec letters, your resume, the fact that you're the president of, let's say, AMPC, they're not really going to matter. So you really want to make sure those two are up there, especially your MCAT and your GPA. And it really blows my mind how one exam is worth so much that it's 50% of, it's worth the same as your 4 years of hard work. So you really don't want to underestimate those two things because, I've seen a lot of people say, okay, I have a 507 MCAT, I'll just find a way to apply to medical school with my great resume. That's not a good approach to take. If you can still find ways to do better on MCAT, you should probably try harder. Okay. So yeah, so the round two of the medical school application is really looking into your resume. So what research have we done? So the research is really broken down into two categories: lab research, which is like the wet lab stuff you do with your professors, or there are a lot of labs open at the medical school as well. Clinical research, so a lot of summer internship programs do offer ways to do clinical research. You can do shadowing with doctors. Actually, in December, there was an application open for School of Medicine internship for the summer, where you would be assigned to work with a doctor over the summer, and you would basically, survey patients, get to analyze their reports, and really help them in their clinical research. So there's a lot of opportunity to get clinical research, but that's kind of like not seen as important because a lot of, when we say research, it's normally like the lab, the wet lab stuff we care about, but clinical is also very important. And number three, clinical experience. That's your normal shadowing, your volunteering. But the most important part is you really want to make your shadowing meaningful because at the end of the day, you really want to generate a rec letter. You want the doctor to be able to write a good rec letter about what you did, how you interacted with patients, what sort of things you learned from them. So a good doctors to shadow would be internal medicine because they're literally the doctors that are needed everywhere. So that's a good way to get exposure in terms of really understanding different fields. Last but not the least, community service. That's very important. Now this is something that I didn't really have as my forte in my resume, but it's very important that you do community service because medical school do ask, okay, explain me, the impact about like poverty or something. How will you use medicine to cure this global, issue? So, community service really allows you to be, aware of different problems in the world. And one of the things I recommend is if you can, do your community service at a really sort of organization that gives you first-hand exposure to poverty, that's a great community service. Some of the examples, you could be working at SUM, it's called a So Others Might Eat. That's a community service, that's a community organization that offers food and free clothing to a homeless population in DC. Miriam's Kitchen is also great. Martha's Table is also great. So yeah, just look around and handshake and find the right community service activity for you. Okay, so I'm going to go over how to study for the MCAT because I've been getting this question a lot. Now, people have different ways to study for the MCAT. I personally studied during the semester because I thought if I integrate all the concepts that I learned in class, it would really help me kind of skip through the content prep. Some people choose to go the traditional way where they take like 3 months, just grind mode in the summertime. That's perfectly fine. But I actually did it during my junior year's second semester. But that doesn't mean you have to do the same way. But I'm just going to go over the way how I studied. So you really don't want to be spending too much time for content prep. You should really be spending time on questions. I think I went over this last time with the GBM. This is because, and the MCAT's not going to ask you, okay, define the action potential, define me how the distal convoluted tubule is different from the proximal. It's not going to really ask you that. The real trick is to be able to understand passages, and these are passages that are very boring and hard, and be able to time yourself to answer these questions quick. And it's really a mental training. So you really don't want to spend too much time taking notes. I've seen people have 5 different notebooks for 5 different subjects of the MCAT. That's good for them, but it's really not good for that test day. So what I recommend is, just go, this is my recommendation, you should probably do the content prep during the semester so when you can get a head start. So the way how I studied was I would split every single day for specific subjects. So my Mondays were biology, my Tuesdays were chemistry, organic chemistry, biochemistry, so 2 chapters every day. So with this sort of schedule, you will be able to finish all the 7 books within a month-and-a-half time span, which is the ideal range in terms of how long you want to study for the MCAT, just for the content prep. But for every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I would find a way to integrate all those concepts. So, biochemistry, organic chemistry, physics, and I would ask myself, okay, how can, let's say, this concept in physics be asked on the MCAT for a section in biochemistry? Because that's what really the MCAT is all about. They're not going to ask you, okay, calculate the velocity of a ball that's being kicked 50 at an angle of 50 degrees. They're not going to ask you questions like that. It's really finding ways to integrate, let's say, organic chemistry into really understanding a concept in biochemistry. So, that integrating all the concepts is very important, and you just make sure that when you're studying for the MCAT, you're doing questions at a constant rate, so you get prepared. But yeah, you don't have to start during the semester. I just chose to do it like that because I found it easier. If you want to do it over the summer, do it, but have a very rigid study plan. Taking the MCAT's not a joke. Studying for the MCAT's not a joke. It takes a lot of mental energy. So, yeah. Okay, so this year we're officially launching AMPC Career Services. Now, this Career Service is pretty much a different sort of program that we're offering as AMPC. Now, it's not the GW Career Services, it's called the AMPC Career Services. So what we like to do is we offer a lot of free impact classes, a lot of free resume counseling, a lot of free HPAC sort of related activity because a lot of our juniors and seniors are going to be applying to HPAC process and going through all the interview process. So we have we're pretty much having a team of doctors who will, assess your resume. They will try to give you input in terms of, okay, where are the missing sort of things, that may make you appear brighter as a medical school applicant. What are you missing in your resume? How can you make your personal statement better? So it's really about preparing you guys for the application process, because the application really is a race. Everyone, let's say, who's applying to UVA are going to be smart, right? They're going to have top GPAs, they're going to have amazing extracurriculars, but there are going to be things that will sort of make them stand out, and that's really what we're trying to do with the AMPC Career Services. Try to make you guys do shadowing that other people don't do. Try to make you guys write essays, personal statements on topics that's not normally thought about when you write that essay. So this is what really the Career Services will plan to do. We're still in the process of building our team, but hopefully when we get there, we'll start to offer a lot of the services. And we're not experts, let's just keep that way, but but the way how we sort of accommodate it is that we will team up with a lot of experts who could be dean for medical schools, chairman of NIH could be one of them, but they'll be mostly doctors who really know the field really strongly and can give us good advice. So that's the AMPC Career Services. So just keep an eye on that, because we will be sending a lot of emails once we establish the team for that. Okay, so this is just a chart that kind of shows you how med schools are really selective. So I just chose a subset. Now, if you look at GW Medical School and versus the medical school that's way down there, New York University, you can see the number of applicants that apply. So GW has a massive number of applicants, and this is exactly why GW is the third most selective medical school to get into, even though the stats are not, really strict. It's really, you have to go from 14,000, around 15,000 applicants, all the way to that number that you see over there. So it's really selective, and there's a stigma that says, oh, GW, it's easy, as long as you have a 5.10 GPA, MCAT or 3.75 GPA, you'll get it. No, that's false. You really need to find a way to make yourself look really, really, really strong when it comes to competing against those 15,000 applicants. If you look down at NYU, it's significantly less. It's 8,937. So that's just giving you an idea of how selective these medical schools are and how important it is to make sure that your MCAT and GPA are top. So yeah. Okay, so this year we'll be incorporating technology-based learning on our MCAT classes, and one of the ways how we'll do that is through a HoloLens device. So this is a Microsoft device that will let you see the human body in mixed reality, and it will let you do a lot of cool things. For example, one of the things we want to do this year is be able to have open heart surgery with this device. All you have to do is download a software that allows for this sort of system, and you have to learn the correct gestures, and you can pretty much conduct any surgery, brain surgery, open heart surgery. It's a really cool device if you really want to understand what the anatomy looks like in real life, and the resolution is pretty reasonable. So I'm going to have Andre come here, come up to the stage and sort of demonstrate that HoloLens device to us. So take on the station. Yeah. So actually, you'll be the model. Okay. And after he shows us the model, we'll have volunteers come in and try this device on for us if they want to see it. So right now he's turning on the device. Once he puts it on his head, he's pretty much just trying to go to the right application, and the way it works is you just pinch it. You just take your two fingers and you just hit it like that. And that will select the thing. You can also move the screen around, you just pinch it and you just move around. So kind of like how you see in those Iron Man movies where Tony Stark's doing all that cool stuff, and we always wonder what the hell is that? But it's a really good device. It really shows you the insides of the human body, something that those YouTube videos won't really give you. So right now, what are you looking at?
Right now, I'm going into the Hall of Human App.
Okay, Hall of Human App. Hall of Human App.
Right, so now it's loaded, I can see the whole school of lectures
Okay.
that I can choose from. So I'm going to choose a model of a skeleton. I'm going to put it in the middle of the room. So I'm putting the model of the skeleton in the middle of the room right here. Confirming it. All right, so right now in front of me, I see a skeleton, which I can look at from any angle. I walk around. If I go close to it, I can select a body part, like the pelvic bone, and it'll tell me everything I need to know about it if you just look to the left. You can rotate the model, you can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can see the cells, you can also turn on and off different systems such as like the respiratory, the muscular, the digestive system, anything. You can turn anything on and it'll tell you everything you need to know about it. So it's a really cool device that we will use for people who are interested in like physiology and anatomy. And yeah, and if you guys want to use it, you guys can come up. It's really cool.
So just to ask you, Anshu, can you make that skeleton sit next to my friend Tony?
Yes.
Let's do that right now. Yeah, it's actually
Close to Tony, not like right next to him. Pretty close. Yeah. All right. Got it.
Okay, so by the raise of hands, who would like to come and try this device? Okay, also our internship. Once you get accepted to the program, you pretty much are going to be assigned to work with a specific doctor, and that doctor will work on a specific project, and you will be able to work in that project, really, conduct all these see all these clinical research happening in front of you and get the credit, because it's really tough to get clinical research. You can easily get, wet lab research, but clinical research is something that's really hard to get, so this is one of the ways you can get it. Okay, so in GW, there's a 5-year BA MA program. Now, this is a very interesting program. I mean, I certainly did not know about this, but this is only for biology majors. So this is pretty much, you finish your 4-year undergrad degree, you get your BA in biology, but you spend that extra year after graduation to complete your MA program. So this is pretty much, this application is open for juniors only, and it's normally open during spring. So you normally apply during February, so I feel like the application window for this cycle has passed. But if you're going to be a junior next year, this is a great program to apply if you know for a fact that you'll be taking a gap year before you enter medical school and would really like to spend that gap year doing something meaningful. So the course curriculum is something like this. So after you finish your BA program, you have to take these additional courses. So you can see like all these 3-credit courses, 4-credit courses, and after finishing all those credits, you will be getting an MA degree, which is fantastic considering you get all those things in 5 years. So if this is something you're really interested in, definitely look into it. Definitely reach out to us. We can provide you more information about this. Okay, now heading on to the co-president, Tony.
Thank you so much, Beavis. So I'm just going to be around the side of the podium. So I'm Anthony. A lot of you already know me. I'm the co-president of the club with Beavis Macho. We started this club up, and just last fall we kicked off. We had a really good turnout, and we were really happy to start this club and stand for medicine and really what we're trying to encompass to help you guys out, the pre-medicine students of the future, the healthcare students. And I just want to give a little bit of myself to all the new members because I see some new faces. First of all, I would like to give you guys a chance to give yourselves a round of applause because you guys are a part of a huger group that showed up tonight. So can you guys please clap? Thank you guys for coming out. I'm really happy to see some familiar faces today. I see Diliana, I see Akash, I see some of the members that actually went to our e-board, and it's really enlightening to see those, but also to see a lot of the new faces. I see Andrea, and I was able to meet a friend from Victoria. And it's always really nice to see you guys come out, no matter what your background is, because in the end of the day, we want you guys to prosper. We know how hard it is. This club is really competitive, and this whole lifestyle is really competitive too. And I know Beavis has mentioned that you've seen it through the stats for medical school, and that's exactly what we're trying to find ways for you guys to improve. So I'm a little bit about myself. I am pursuing a Bachelor of Science. I'm graduating in May, along with Beavis. In biology, my concentration's in molecular, in cell biology. I've always been a biology person, so it's just my interest. I find studying the ways of life and how cells operate to be really cool, and I think that there's really an interesting correspondence with medicine. Now, how did I actually try to incorporate that? Because I try to make myself unique as a pre-med. I got involved as much research as I can. Beavis and I are both a part of a nephrology lab in the medical school, and I would encourage all of you to really try to seek out those types of labs in medical school that will get you involved in clinical experience and also in hardcore research. And I'm talking about wet lab research because those are the kinds of experiences that are independent. You're not going to get that much help with, but they really make you reflect on who you are and what you're really doing and how all of this can have a much larger impact than you or your studies would think. So I would really encourage to pursue your research opportunities. I'm in 3 labs. I don't know how I happen to juggle all of those, but I do. It's really tough. It's not an easy lifestyle ahead, but I'll tell you this, no matter who you are and where you come from, this is something that you can do. And I've seen a lot of people have a lot of stigma about this career, and I want you guys to know that you shouldn't. This is about you and you finding your own agenda, your own portfolio, and your own way of life. Because at the end of the day, this is a very long process, so you need to make it a lifestyle. So that's a little bit about myself. And now I'd like to give you guys a little bit dose of physiology, because we are a physiology club. There's gotta be a little bit of physiology in every lecture. I like to talk to you guys about coronavirus because, frankly, that's the most talked about thing these days. But a lot of people don't really talk about the biology of coronavirus that much, well, unless you're in some of these classes offered, like Dr. Shaw's Introductory Microbiology, which I happen to be a part of. But a lot of people don't really know how this virus functions. Now, this virus is a very small virus. It's an RNA virus, so that means there's no DNA in its interior. It's actually, if you see the right picture, so I'd like you guys to quickly look at that because it's pretty cool. You could see where the DNA is in the cell, and this is the kind of virus, it's only in a circle, so it doesn't it's not like E. coli that's in a rod shape. It doesn't have a nucleus. Its genome, which is only about 30 kilobases, it's pretty small for a virus particle, is around the surface of the cell. And it occupies this through a region called a nucleocapsid. Now, knowing this molecular biology is actually pretty important. It seems not really that important, but it is. Now, why is that? Because a lot of people are suffering as we speak, dealing with the symptoms of this virus. And to understand anything, you need to understand the molecular biology in it, obviously, as a start. On the left, you have an electron microscope picture of the virus, and you could actually see in some of these cells some of the spikes that come out of it, and that's exactly what you see on the right. We call those spike proteins. Now, these spike proteins are actually what are recognizing any sort of particle that is inside of the human body. And that means that when this enters your lungs, because coronavirus is in its essence a lung disease, it causes pneumonia. What it's doing is it's recognizing intrapulmonary epithelial cells in your lower tract when it enters, because that's actually the first region it really attacks. Those spike proteins on the outside are kind of like molecular mechanisms, or not mechanisms, molecular apparatuses that sense these specific cells. It's like it has its own cell identity. So I just wanted to show you guys that because understanding the structure of the virus helps you understand, not really the molecular biology of it, really helps you understand the pathology, which is what I'd like to go a little bit into next. So I have a lot here. It's not that scary. What coronavirus is really doing is it's a respiratory illness. Now, what does that mean? That means that it targets any sort of respiratory cell in your body. That's crazy. And I'm talking about the lung, the whole tract from the top. Now, it really takes control of your lower tract. And a lot of MD PhDs have recently found that the upper tract is not getting affected. So people who get this disease have a shortage of alveoli. How's that possible? It's possible because what it's actually doing, this is the crazy part, this is really where the physiology comes in, is it releases fluid into your alveolar cells. And when it does that, it reduces the chance of oxygen and, in general, oxygenation of blood. And that's a huge issue in physiology. That's something that we've studied multiple times if you've taken any physiology or anatomy course, the whole importance of alveoli. And that's actually what this virus is doing. But where specifically? In the lower tract. And that's the part where you have more surface area. There's more coverage with your diaphragm. So this is a very, very bad virus in terms of the physiology of it, just in terms of your upper respiratory, but I like to go even beyond that. Imagine how interconnected your upper chest is with the rest of your body. It's very interconnected. You have connections with the kidney, connections with the liver, connections with many different locations. And Omar, I got your question, just give me a second. And if you really think about the hormonal system, it also gets affected, right? Because if you're shutting down your kidney, your whole raw system is getting disrupted, and moreover, you're gonna start facing even other symptoms, including fever and whatnot. So I'd just like to show this as you can see those red dots on the left side. It's showing all the different effects of the virus. One of them is GI, the other is the kidney, but there's just so much more. So when you hear about coronavirus, this isn't just a virus. This is almost like a disease. It is not curable yet. We have not developed a vaccine. And for that reason, the CDC is very, very serious about this virus. And what they were the first to respond when there was an outbreak at the end of 2019 in Wuhan, China. Right now, we're at 88,000 cases. That's actually pretty serious. I mean, it doesn't seem like a big number, and we would think there would be more, but trust me, if you think 88,000, considering it's only been 2 months, is little, you'd be wrong. I mean, that's actually a decent amount, and it's something that a lot of microbiologists are really, really working on. And if you're doing wet lab experience and you hear about any of these opportunities, I'll tell you this much, it's a lab and it's a topic very interesting to study, because viruses and virology in general really has a huge, huge relevance to medicine. Because if you think about it, what are all these vaccines doing? They're trying to find ways to counteract and mimic the RNA. In this case, it's an ssRNA virus, the RNA that these viruses actually possess. And the last thing you want is for them to be transducing into any of your cells, if you know what I mean. Because these could actually function as transducing phages, which means that they actually insert and replicate into your DNA. So it's a very bad virus, and people are getting cured for it. I don't want to make it sound like it's an absolute disaster. People are actually getting cured for it, but in the same time, it's not enough. We don't have a vaccine, and in the end of the day, anyone out there could have it. But the other thing I'd like to quickly mention is the GW response, because, I mean, you guys probably want to know how is this related to you. Well, I don't know if any of you noticed, just 3 days ago, President LeBlanc sent out a message to all the members saying that people who were planning on going to China during the spring break will be prohibited, in essence. And that's actually a little bit sad, because they want to visit their families, but, you know, the whole thing with the visa might prevent them from coming back. So I think that that's actually really hurtful. I can't imagine being a Chinese foreign student, and you know that we have a lot of international students here at GW, and just being told, oh, you have to stay here for your break just because of certain population, which is understandable. We're trying to constrain it because at the moment we still don't know if it's an airborne pathogen. And that's another big fact. We don't know if it's airborne yet. We haven't confirmed that it is. We also haven't confirmed that it is not. So again, just emphasizes the importance. Omar, you had a quick question?
Yeah, so you were talking in regards to having a fluid in your alveoli, and it causes, it causes less alveoli to form, right?
Correct.
Okay, doesn't that indicate the severity to be actually much higher than, the data shows, according to CDC and GW?
Great question. Now, how I will answer this question. The effects of this virus are very variable. Some people are getting way worse cases than others, which is telling me one really important fact, which is that the replication rate of this virus is still not known. And actually, that's what they report. So some cases are getting just mild, basic pneumonia. Others are actually getting acute distress, which is a whole other level of damage. So that's actually a really important point. Thank you for bringing that up. Some people are actually having fluid leak into their intrapulmonary epithelial cells. Others, it doesn't go to that level. They just get these basic mild conditions that can be treated with certain medications, and they actually do feel better. but there's variability there. And with regards to those that are at that level, right now it's almost terminal, which unless we find some sort of cure to it, and trust me, that is what they're working on effectively right now.
Sure. I'm sorry.
Please.
What exactly does this fluid consist of? I mean, is there some kind of mediated response? Is there some hormone, maybe a cytokine that's like, inside that fluid that's causing some inflammation or some kind of shortage? Or you mentioned the shortage for the area.
Another great question. Thank you for mentioning it. That fluid's actually coming from the capillaries. That's what I figured out. So it's not direct. Red blood is the other component of the blood, which is usually just the plasma, which contains some white blood cells, but not entirely. So that what I did read is this very clearly. That fluid is directly preventing those alveolar sacs from providing oxygen. And I'd love to go more into it, but that's not a conversation after, but I just want to give you guys a cool coronavirus, a little bit more of the applicated version of it, because there's so much going on around it, there's a lot of misinformation. So, as a club, I'd like us to really get more involved with it, because I think that that's a really cool topic.